There, everybody, how you doing? Oh, look, you can see my face. Is that better? I don't know if that's better. This is the only face I got. Oh, look who's here. It's my son Ezra. Hi, Ezra. Ezra, you look like devil spawn. Ezra, wave to people. Make your nice face. Wait, come here for a second. Come here. Show them. Okay, wait, let's do this. So he can do it, though. Show them your evil Democrat face. Go. Okay, that's pretty good. Now, show them your evil Democrat screaming. Do it. That's good. Okay, very good. You can play. So that's Ezra, my youngest son. So we're at the playground. How you doing, everybody? So I'm at the park, and as I was walking to the park with Ez, the Kavanaugh thing came in. Let's talk about what's next. I was just watching the great Will Chamberlain, and Will did a sum up Periscope, and I'm going to slightly disagree with something that Will said, although I understand the sentiment behind it, and I understand that everybody's fatigued. What Will said, okay, is, and by the way, this is a minor quibble, because Will, like all Republicans right now, all Republicans are my brothers right now. But let's talk about what's next. The area I disagreed with Will on slightly is that he's like, now it's time to get Republicans elected. Yes, I agree with that part. But that's not the time. You see, now's the time to indict Team Ford. And that's the next logical step, because there's about 4 or 5 weeks between now and Election Day, right? I don't know the exact number. I'm not looking at my notes here. But if the Republicans just think that backing up, by the Republicans, I mean the leadership, if they just think that, okay, well, the Kavanaugh thing's over, let's put this behind us. Allow me, may I get salty? Is it possible I could get salty here for a minute? My son's over there, so I'll try to do this surreptitiously. But fuck you, Democrats. That's not happening. That should not be happening. Will had a great idea for a meme, which is remember Kavanaugh, and I agree with that, but what I would say is remember Ford. You see? And the reason why is because I didn't care about the Kavanaugh nomination in the sense that, let me explain my idea on this for people who get confused on this point. Here's my thing about Supreme Court justices. First off, they're either going to be on the left or right broadly, and I'm in favor of on the right. The problem with Supreme Court justices is once they're nominated, you never know how it's going to go. So I always tell people, like, don't fall in love with a politician. Don't fall in love with any politician. Don't fall in love with Donald Trump. You got to hold people accountable, which means not falling in love with them. And really don't fall in love with the Supreme Court justice, because they will let you down. You dig? Supreme Court justices will always let you down. John Roberts, Obamacare, right? That happens. People who seem like, okay, they're going to be solid, come out wrong sometimes. So the problem is, and by the way, also sometimes they surprise you. Sometimes Supreme Court justices come up and you're not expecting too much from them, and then they surprise you. So I view it as a force of nature outside of my control. You see? Therefore, whatever Kavanaugh's, whatever, he's on the right. I'm in favor of that broadly, right? I am. And because, as I said, let me make my position 100% clear. I'm nonpartisan in the sense that both parties have two problems. But only one political party in this country is a criminal entity who engaged in a pattern of fraud, misuse of government resources all throughout the 2016 election. Only one political party colluded with a foreign government to interfere in the election, and that's the Democrats. Only one party worked with a serial bomber who was put in prison after he bombed numerous times a town in Indianapolis. I'm talking about Brett Kimberlin. Only one party put Brett Kimberlin to work for them during the 2016 election. Only one party misused the foreign policy of the United States in places like the Ukraine to foment an attempted coup. Only one party is backed by George Soros with massive donations. Only one party is backed by Victor Pinchuk with massive donations, right? So despite the fact that there are problems on the Republican side, and there are, and anyone who's a Trump supporter knows this, and the rifts are great, the Democrats are evil. And I'm going to say that again. I'm going to say that again. I'm going to say that again. The Democrats are evil. And I did a great interview with my friend Tom Luongo today. Tom Luongo from Gold, Goats, and Guns. He's a frequent guest on the show, but he and I did a 3-hour interview. And I'm going to tell this story. Let me explain part of what happened. I used to be on the left. I used to write for Huffington Post. Then I met Andrew Breitbart. You know the walk-away movement? I didn't walk away. I ran screaming from these motherfuckers, right? And I know some other people who did too. And the reason we didn't walk away is when I say evil, I want to make very clear what I'm talking about here. And when I say evil, I mean evil. So, Ezra, who you just met, was a twin. And we lost his daughter. We lost his sister at birth. The day before she was due to be born, she died. And unfortunately, I have to dredge up this story again because I use it to point out that when I say they're evil, I mean it. Now, when I was on the left, I met Andrew Breitbart and I started working with him. Our daughter Colette died a month after Andrew Breitbart died. And people, I had plenty of friends on the left, of course, because I was on the left. I did work for Move On. And after we lost Colette, there was a liberal Democrat activist associated with Brett Kimberlin who harassed me and my family, made my wife cry every day, taunted the death of our daughter, demanded to see the birth certificate. And guess how many Democrats stood up and said something? Guess how many people on the left said to this guy, "You've crossed a line"? About 3. One of them, who I will mention by name again, is Natasha Leonard, who is a communist who I exposed at Occupy Wall Street. But she's a decent human being who saw what was happening and said, "I don't agree with Lee. I don't like his politics. I got the guy. I got her fired. But what these people are doing is wrong." But she was one of the only ones, and she absolutely gets credit in my book. Absolutely gets credit. Other people didn't say a thing, and that's evil. That's evil. When Brandon Darby exposed terrorists who lit off bombs during the Minnesota RNC, okay? That's what he did. He used to be on the left as well. He got death threats against him. Everyone wanted to kill him. Nobody on the left spoke up and said, again, like 3 people, said, hey, maybe putting wanted posters around Austin to have Brandon killed is a bad idea. The guy who reached out to him, and the way I know Brandon Darby, is because Andrew Breitbart reached out to him. David Horowitz, another friend, and this is what I say, we didn't walk away from these motherfuckers. These people were trying to kill us. These people were taunting the death of my daughter. Right? And they can't say anything. I've never seen this on the right. I've never seen anything like this. I'll give you one more example. David Horowitz, my friend David Horowitz. When he's on the left, I mean he's on the left. David wrote for Ramparts magazine, right? Former communist. Red diaper baby from a family of communists. He worked with the Black Panther Party, the Black Panther Party, in the 60s and 70s. He recommended a woman to be their accountant. She went to work for the Black Panther Party. She discovered, and she was a leftist too, committed leftist, she discovered they were money laundering for their drug and pimp operations out of a bar called the Lamppost in Oakland. Then she went missing one night in Berkeley. Now, by the way, Jerry Brown, at the time, current governor of California, was dating and using politically Elaine Brown, who was running the Black Panther Party at the time. Okay? So this woman who's the accountant goes missing. A few weeks after Jerry Brown's elected, they find her body floating in the Oakland Bay. She had been raped. She had been tortured and thrown into the bay. Now, she died because David Horowitz gave her a job recommendation. Does that make sense? She was an accountant at Ramparts. She got the job because of David. So he felt horribly guilty. Like, what have I done? Right? But he's still on the left. He's still a communist at this point. And nobody is saying anything. The Berkeley police didn't investigate it. She's connected to Jerry Brown, who now has just been elected governor, right? Elaine Brown, the head of the Black Panther Party. The attorneys representing the Black Panther Party, which is how they found out about this. By the way they found out about it is a guy named Fred Hestat. Fred Hestat's still a lawyer in California, still connected to Brown, right? Another person who was involved in this whole fiasco is now the head of the appeals court in California. So these are substantial people still in the Democrat Party. Elaine Brown is still doing work in Oakland. And they had this woman named Betty Van Patter. Look her up. Betty Van Patter, killed. Right? Elaine Brown writes about it. And on the way to the funeral, David Horowitz told me, he's with this woman's daughter, and she could not bring herself, because of political loyalty, to fully grasp with the family what was going on here. And she's had a difficult time with it to this day, because she doesn't want to trace it to the politics, as I understand. I've never spoken to her. But this is what I've been told, and this is what I'm led to understand. I feel very badly for her loss, and so I don't want to get it wrong with her, and I want to be careful. I've never talked to her. But the murder's still out there. Betty Van Patter. In fact, look it up. You'll find a few stories about it, but very, very few. So when I see the walk away march and the walk away movement, I'm like, you people can walk. I'm running. Because when I say they're evil, this is what I mean. And the fact that they're condoning and working with Brett Kimberlin right now. Brett Kimberlin, convicted serial bomber who lit off bombs to cover up the murder attempt on his girlfriend's mother that was made after she tried to report Brett Kimberlin for child molestation of her granddaughter. And Brett Kimberlin subsequently has been adjudicated as a pedophile. This man is working at the DNC right now. And you want to talk about evil? I'll give you one more example. And it's happening, this is not ancient history, right now. Karen Monahan in Minnesota. Karen Monahan in Minnesota is going through the same shock therapy that people like Brandon and people like David Horowitz and people like I have been through. And most of you and most people and most Democrats will never go through this. She is saying that she was abused by Keith Ellison. And now the entire Democrat Party, she's a lifelong Democrat. She says she's been working for the party since she was 21. She's with Sierra Club, woman of color, right? She thought she'd checked off all the boxes. She thought these people meant what they said. But here's the thing, and let's be very, very clear on this. Democrats, and let them know this, you never believed Dr. Ford's story. You never believed it, and we know you never believed it. We know you didn't believe her bullshit story because it's unbelievable, because it's completely uncorroborated with any proof whatsoever. And furthermore, there's negative proof. You never believed it. And you never believed the Democratic leadership doesn't give a shit about women's being abused, or they would stand up for Karen Monahan. They would have taken care of that, but they don't want to take the hit. So 2 points. Between now and Election Day, if you sit back passively, but you think you're going to vote and that's going to change things, you're part of the problem. I want to say that again. If you sit here passively as a Republican between now and Election Day and think that you voting makes a difference, wrong. Because the left, and I know the left, they are going to put every resource they have into get out the vote drive, into calling us racist, into calling us rapist. And the way to control the narrative is to indict Team Ford. Now, if you're not sure about that, please go listen to the Periscope that I still have pinned. I don't know how many people here have listened to it. Someone's saying, why should Ford be indicted? Why would anyone lie about any of their experiences? This is a good, valid question. Please, how many people here listen to my pinned Periscope where you can hear Dr. Ford commit perjury and realize that she's committing perjury right in mid-sentence, right? If you agree with me that one audio clip shows she's lying, where she contradicts what she said just a few minutes earlier. She's asked by Rachel Mitchell. Go listen to the audio. Don't take my word for it. Go listen to it. She's asked by Rachel Mitchell, did you tell anybody else? And she says no. Then a couple of questions later, she admits she told people. And mid-sentence, she goes, well, the people that I talked to, well, there were a few. There weren't many people. There was a small number of people that I mean, forgive me. It was a small number of people. I can't even do her voice. Who can do that voice? I can't. I'm not a 4-year-old lady. So it's hard for me to do that voice. But she commits perjury. Furthermore, what we know about Monica McClain, Grassley, Hatch, Paul, Lindsey Graham 2.0, indict these people. And if they don't, this is what I'm saying you can do. Keep up the pressure on Republicans. This is not over. In fact, this almost has nothing to do with Brett Kavanaugh being on the Supreme Court. He's on the Supreme Court, good. Now let's get down to business, which is fighting the Democrats and exposing them for who they are, and exposing this complete setup, this political setup that now suddenly Dr. Ford is saying. You see what I'm saying? Suddenly now Dr. Ford is saying, oh, we're not going to pursue it anymore. And as I said earlier, watch this scene from The Bronx Tale if you missed it. Now you can't leave. It's a great scene from The Bronx Tale where these bikers go into a bar and they're asked to leave and they won't do it. And then when they start tossing beer around, the mobster locks the door, walks back to them and says, you had a chance to leave? No, you can't leave. And they turn white and they proceed for the next 4 minutes of the film to get the shit beat out of them. And the reason they do is they had a chance to leave and they didn't take it. So I don't think Dr. Ford should have the shit beat out of her. I'm not part of a violent mob. I think the rule of law needs to apply, and these motherfuckers need to learn what evidence looks like. That's the facts. They need to learn what evidence looks like, and they need to learn that you can't. But again, so I think that at this point, if you want to have a victory thing, it's a nice weekend, it's a celebration. But on Tuesday, get back to work. Keep the pressure on. Because if you don't think the left and the billionaires that run that organization, right? If you think that they're going to take it easy, guess again. And if it's just a matter of waiting to vote, nope, not going to make a difference. You need... Let me, and I'll finish with this. Let me explain how the left works. I worked for Move On. I know how Move On works. I'll explain to you how it works. Ready? You need to create things in the media cycle. Right? So, for instance, we want an indictment against Ford. I just want Grassley. He sent 3 letters to Ford's legal team. Let's start with Grassley. He sent 3 letters to Ford's legal team demanding documents. I want him to continue. If I see by Friday, I'll give him till Friday, that he's not continuing to pursue that, it's time for Republicans to go and sit in Grassley's office. That's easy activism, and it works. And it creates, let me explain why this works. It creates a media event, right? And the media event creates a response. A lack of action creates no response. And the way the news cycle works, and I talked about this with Tom Luongo earlier, so it's on my mind. This is the Andrew Breitbart, my friend Andrew's drip, drip, drip method. James O'Keefe knows how to use it now. You don't just do one story. Because you do one and they ignore it. Andrew and I used to talk about this all the time. You do one and they ignore it. You do 2 and they ignore it. You do 3, they ignore it. You do 4 and they ignore it. You do 5, most people would quit at that point. They would have quit at 3, and they ignore it. But then eventually you hit what Tom Luongo, when we talked about it, they breach containment, right? And what happens then is they start responding, and their responses create other responses. This is broadly what Soros refers to as reflexivity. I talked about that in my Soros 101 podcast. You're creating a news cycle. So you go and you sit in Grassley's office. We're waiting to hear from you. We want you to pursue this. We want you to pursue this. Nothing happens. The media won't cover it because it's on the right. They won't cover it. But you keep doing it, and you keep doing it, and you keep doing it, which is what they've shown the Democrats have shown. Now, Grassley has to respond. He either ignores or he goes along with. And by the way, as long as he's doing what we want, fine, which is we want indictments. And you don't do it the way left does it. You don't go in and be disrespectful. You don't go in and scream. You don't go in and yell. You don't need any histrionics. Just, we're a group of people in your office, and we want to make sure that you, Senator Grassley, follow the rule of law. I'm giving you a template. I'm not assuming Grassley's not pursuing this. In fact, I think Grassley is going to pursue this. But I'm just talking about the way you do the activism. This is the drip, drip, drip method. And the left knows exactly how to do it. I just told you exactly how to do it. And all that's required is you being prepared to take action. Because I have talked a lot about nonpartisanship and everything else. It's time to shut down the criminal Democratic Party. People need to be indicted in that party. Hillary Clinton needs to be indicted for the email scandal. People in the Department of Justice need to be indicted for covering up the email scandal. People in the Department of State need to be indicted for their role in covering up not just that scandal, but also the intimidation of employees that happened. Oh, you don't know about that? James O'Keefe and I did a piece about it. Employees at the State Department were intimidated. They were yelled at for talking about the Hillary Clinton email thing. Did you know that? It's in the IG report. James O'Keefe and I did a piece on it back in the election. See, this is what the media does. You don't know that story because it made the cycle for like a week, right? And that was it. And that was in the right-wing cycle. People in the right don't have any balls in a lot of cases. They just don't. But that's where the only option here is to do what Andrew Breitbart suggested. And people who are sick of this, the Democratic Party has weaponized and politicized the Department of Justice and the State Department and the work in the Ukraine. And they did it in conjunction with the Obama executive branch. And they did it in conjunction with the media, right? And it's all been proven. And the reason they're going after Julian Assange right now, by the way, I'll be on the Unity for J event tonight at 7:30 to 8:30, is because Assange is the guy who shut down the DNC. Everybody who's saying the thing about, oh, WikiLeaks and ICE, 2 points. A, that didn't happen when Assange was under there. But B, so let's just leave that aside. B, Donald Trump probably would not be president right now if it worked for Julian Assange. And I don't agree with everything Assange does. That's not the point. It's the same thing here. Assange is the guy who exposed the corruption of the DNC. And if people are going to be indicted, it's because WikiLeaks exposed emails. So please get your head out of your ass on this one and free Julian Assange. And urge Donald Trump to do the right thing, because he's got people in the administration like Pompeo urging him to do the wrong thing on Assange. So that's it. So I'm fired up. Like I said, I don't know if you can tell. I'm ready to kick some ass right now. I'm not slowing down. I'm not stopping on this. The Kavanaugh thing, this is not going to be like after the Roy Moore election where, oh, the story went away. Remember that? It just went away, right? This shit is different. And I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. Hey, Ez, come here. I'm going to finish up. Come here. Are you tired? No. Okay. We're going to say bye to everybody?
Bye.
Okay, there we go. Ez, wait, do you remember, Ez was in a video that went, you remember your viral video?
Yeah.
He was wearing a MAGA hat and he smashed a Pop-Tart box. This is when I was exposing Kellogg's. That was Ezra's big moment, right?
Yeah.
There we go. It's funny,
YouTube
right?
Take it down. YouTube took it down.
What?
YouTube took it down.
YouTube took it down. Yes, YouTube is mean, aren't they, Ezra? So, yeah, YouTube, when they deleted my account, deleting 10 years of my work, that's what they did. So anyway, let's hope for the best right now. Right now, if you want to take the night off and pop a cork or pop a brewski, whatever, like Will was talking about, doing that, again, totally get it. You want to take tomorrow off, great. If you want to celebrate Columbus Day the way most Americans do, which is by doing nothing, great, feel free. Anyway, love you guys. I got more detailed stuff coming later. And I got an interesting audio scope that I'm going to do later, talking about Dave Chappelle in a way that may surprise you. I know, trust me. Trust me, when you hear it, you'll get where I'm going with this. I'm going to link Dave Chappelle to the right way to fight globalism. I know. Anyway, love you guys. Talk to you later. Say bye, Ez.